Hey guys, so this video is going to serve as my intro to my STI build. Kind of want to show you its current state. As you guys know, for the guys that have been following, you guys know the history of this car from me talking all about it and kind of making promises as to getting the STI build started. But the day has come. I'm kind of tired of letting it sit here and me just sitting in the driver's seat pretending it's running and driving. So anyway, as you guys can see, it has no motor. It happened blowing up the motor. It happened, I'd say about maybe 3 to 4 weeks after purchase. Yeah, it was pretty sad. I was driving it around like it was a rotary, so it's my fault. The previous owner was a Subaru Master Tech and had a built motor, basically had forged internals. It wasn't a closed deck or anything, it was a stock block with updated internals, but still. Unfortunately, the bearings didn't hold. It might have been oil starvation, and I ended up on the side of the road. So to quickly cover what is going into the STI, this is an IAG short block, stage 2.5 tough, I believe it is a tough. I'm not quite sure what the description is, but it is a stage 2.5. It's taken from a Subaru 2.0 liter case halves which they put together. The main bolts are from OE as well. They are the standard case bolts. So the crankshaft, that's from a WRX 2.0 liter, which is stock also. I believe the only difference is the fact that they have modified the oil passages so that it'll flow better. I'm not quite sure if they've widened it or If they've honed it, I'm not really quite sure. Maybe somebody who's more familiar with this motor can chime in. It also has a closed deck. So what they've done is they milled it so that it'll accept the inserts to make it into a closed deck. So of course, there's no need for me to explain why a closed deck is much better than the OE. Of course, more support, more rigidity, less expansion, etc., etc. So the bore, I believe it's 92.5 millimeters, if I remember correctly, and it has forged pistons, better pins, clips. I forget from where. I don't know if it's aftermarket, if it's from their own. But yeah, so this short block is fairly pretty new. Oh, by the way, it does. I forget which one I chose, but it can come with either ACL or King bearings. So what we're gonna do for today is just for this video, and we'll continue to add more videos as I build this block, this long block that is. I am going to be putting a windage tray, a KillerB windage tray, and a KillerB oil pickup, and that came with the previous motor. I just need to clean that up, and then I picked up an IAG oil pan to support those items, and it does work with the IAG oil pan. I'll explain later why I chose it. And as far as the windage tray and the oil pickup, I still need to clean these guys. This pickup might still have residual bearing. Well, you can kind of see. So I need to clean this up, gather all the debris in this pickup, see if maybe I can kind of get rid of all of them, because I don't want them circulating in the motor, in the new motor that is. So clean that up, clean the windage tray, install it, and off to the heads we go. Let me grab the new pan, just kind of show you what the differences are. That thing is just pretty. One thing I will say though, this is heavier than the stock oil pan. Actually, you know what? No, not that much heavier. I should weigh it and kind of talk about what the differences are. Okay, so the differences. The OE requires sealant to seal the oil pan to the short block. The IAG has a groove, a machine groove, where you use a rubber gasket. I'm not sure if this is Viton or what, but what you do is you just line this up on the groove, and that'll provide the seal that you need so that oil doesn't leak between the oil block. Between the short block and the oil pan. It comes oversized, so you'd have to clip it when it meets, and then put the sealant where it meets, just so that there's no gap. So that's the difference between those two pans when it comes to the mating area. The KillerB is the same as the OE, where you require sealant to seal it up against the short block. So you can see the baffle between the stock and the IAG. I don't have the info on the KillerB, but it does have a nice baffle as well. Now, I didn't go with their competition one that has the rubber flaps in it, simply because I don't think it's proven yet as far as longevity. I'm not quite sure how long those rubber flaps will remain. The risk there is just too many failure points, because it's not just one, it's just a whole bunch of them. And I don't want
those as failure points in case it does in time, I don't know, from whatever, from temperature or maybe bad batch from manufacturing, whatever, that it loses its connection with the baffle and starts to float and start to slosh away, in the pan, and possibly blocking the oil pickup and preventing from oil getting to the block. So I kind of opted out of that. Well, just also because it's just too expensive. I I didn't have the extra coin to be able to go for it. Maybe if I did, maybe I would have taken that risk. But having the fact that I've had this STI down for 2 years, nope, I'm not taking that risk. But okay, so back to the comparison. The stock does not have the cooling fins that IAG does, and the KillerB does not either. So this is one of the pluses why I chose IAG. Also, if you notice, it's right there. It does have an extra port so that you can use it for possibly maybe something like a oil temp sensor. The KillerB has it as well, and it's actually located next to the drain bolt, I believe. And one thing I noticed about the stock oil pan, it has a recessed area where things can accumulate and make it difficult for you to get all the oil out. I don't know if you guys can see that. You see that like cavity that's a lot lower than that drain bolt. So things will settle in there, and you guys can see the bits of the bearings that came off of the previous motor. But yeah, sad face. But so yeah, so things can accumulate down there, and you really can't get all the oil out. And if you do have certain things that might have gotten in your system, you're just gonna end up recirculating it because you're not able to drain it out. Whereas with the IAG, another plus point is that it's right on the bottom, so that there's no cavity and oil, all of the oil comes out. Now for the KillerB, it's on the side, just like just like this would be. I think it's on this side or this side, whatever. But it's the two ports are on the side, so it might have a cavity just as the stock does. So that was a negative for me. So hence why I chose the IAG, because it had a lot of the items that I thought was beneficial for an oil pan. So this, by the way, is for the dipstick tube, if you guys were wondering. But that's as far as I can think of. And by the way, this is a billet aluminum, so pretty cool. I should weigh it. Let me go get my scale and see what the difference is between the two. Okay, the moment of truth. Let's weigh this thing on my professional bathroom scale. I got it. No, wait a second. All right, I don't even know if this is going to register. Yeah, it's not registering, so it's probably less than a pound. That's weird. All right, let's get this guy. Well, there goes my failed weighing test. I'm pretty sure this weighs more than a pound. Sorry I couldn't come up with a definitive answer on the weight. I don't have an exact scale. I'm using a bathroom scale and it's not even registering. So let me get on this thing. Well, the good thing is that this thing lies. So that right there, it's probably not my real weight.
So I'm guessing I'm like, what do you think, guys? 175? Yeah, I would think so. Anyway, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this. Yeah, and I do gotta, that is my target goal, is 175. Hitting the track and doing a bunch of things, doing a lot of weights. So I should be able to get there by the end of the year if I stay away from bacon. But anyway, it does come with a spacer, and this is what you need to use for an aftermarket pickup. It does work with, I believe IAG confirmed that it works with the KillerB and their oil pickup. So this is the spacer, and this is these two go, I believe, on the back end. But these three are these three are the spacers that you need to install the pickup, and it does come with the O-rings that you need for both the. See, look, even the fly likes the oil pickup. He approves. I thought I had the garage door closed. I might have left the door open. Nope. Let me open that guy up so maybe he can get escape, and maybe let more flies in. What was I saying? Oh, it does come with the appropriate drain bolt, the bolts that you need to mount everything else. I don't know if you guys heard me that, because the damn garage door was running. But like I said, it comes with all the bolts that you need, the drain plug, the spacers, and all the other bolts for the pickup, the windage tray, and the pen, so that it bolts up properly to the block. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, the failure point on the stock. The reason why folks go with an aftermarket pickup, because it has a tendency to fail here on the stock pickup. This would crack, and I believe it's just due to time and the heat that it goes through, heat cycles that it goes through. So let's go ahead and install these items, and hopefully get to the head, but not by this evening. So, also, and to note that the IAG oil pan is taller. Of course, because of the extra volume that it holds, you can expect that. So, it's taller. By the way, I don't rely on what I get from vendors, because people do make mistakes. It happens. I'm not saying vendors do it deliberately, but I usually check everything before I install. So this accepts a T30. So just make sure that these things are tight and to torque. That way you're not concerned that this eventually down the road will start to kind of get loose. Okay, so the first thing is taking the windage tray, but not quite sure why it's coming up the way it looks like. It's rusty, but it really isn't. Just I guess the lighting. Anyway, you really can't mess up the orientation on this windage tray. It only goes a certain way. So usually before I tighten things, I line it up with the bolts, because it is built with very little play, which is great. So anyway, so that's going to be the first thing that you're going to need to do. On the back here, on the clutch side, you will see that it requires oh, by the way, for those of you that's going to be following this build, I am not a mechanic by any means. Just a disclaimer, I do have a mechanical engineering background, and that's what I do for trade, for a living actually. So, well, before, that's how I started, and I have since moved on. I'm in IT now, but anyway, it's still related to engineering, which is mostly really engineering systems. But anyway, enough of me. So it's going to be a 10 millimeter bolt, and here is going to be a 25. And for the spacer, you're going to need a 30. Okay, to cover the hardware that we're going to need for the windage tray and the oil pickup. So what we have here are two M6x1 10 millimeter using a hex head or an Allen head, however, whichever one you want to use, and it takes a number 5, and that's the back side. This is the back side of the windage tray, on the clutch side, that is. Maybe that's a better reference. And these are the front side of the windage tray, where the oil pickup pedestal bolts onto as well. So it's these two guys. And this is an M6x1 25 millimeter. And so, but prior to using these, the sequence is the oil pedestal, then the spacer, then the O-ring that you see here, and then the bolt. So these two are torqued down to 10 Newton meter, and on the other side of the pickup is the spacer, goes on here. So, and it comes with the O-ring. This is a fairly new oil pickup tube from KillerB, and the O-ring is still good, so I'm going to reuse that. And this comes with, which I haven't taken out yet, which I should have for this as reference. This is going to be M6 by M6x1 by 30 millimeter. This is 25 and that's 10. So so yeah, so you got the info. Now let's go ahead and install those two. So we got the, see if I can do this with one hand and holding the camera on the other. So just guiding it there by hand before I torque it. So I showed you guys as reference this key, but I am not going to be using this. This is just going to be for hand tightening it, but we'll be using this alongside with a digital torque wrench to make sure that I get the right torque on those bolts. Next, I'm going to be putting the supplied O-ring that comes with the package, and dropping it in there. Okay, so for the next step, I've already gone ahead and put the spacer and the O-ring underneath that spacer and the bolt through on both ends of the pickup. And bring it over to the block, and I'm just gonna just set it down, and we'll take care of tightening it when I get to put the camera down. So that's how it looks. Okay, so in my haste, I forgot to put the washers on here, but I think what I'm gonna do is, just for a little bit of a precaution, instead of using regular spacers that they provided, I am going to see if I have any crush washers that will fit. Okay, so I found the 4 crush washers that I need, or AKA lock washers. Now, why use it, you ask? Well, I just like the idea that it's going to keep the bolts in place, provide that extra spring pressure, and the bolt doesn't, because of maybe it loses its tightness, maybe just the simple fact that I may have not have a calibrated torque wrench and it's not torqued properly. I mean, I don't know. It's just something that's, for me, that I kind of feel safe about having. Considering what had happened to me previously on this car, I want to make sure that the oil system is completely 100%. So instead of using the flat washers that came with the package, I'm going to use the crush washers that I found. Now, the reason why I'm using this on the M6x125, which is the bolts on the pedestal, is because the port that the bolt goes through is slightly larger, and I just want to make sure that the head doesn't, like, angle because of the larger port, or not like thread properly. So the lowest setting for Newton meters is 13.5 on my digital torque wrench. So I just had to monitor it as I was torquing it. As soon as it reached 10, I just stopped, and then just kind of revisited each of the bolts just to make sure that they are set to 10. So that's all done as far as the pickup is concerned. And the windage tray, I'm just gonna go ahead and I got other things I need to get done. So I will pick this up, pardon the pun, pick this up tomorrow, and with the magic of video, you guys should see it fairly soon. All right, guys, so it's the following day, and I'm gonna try to squeeze this in during my lunch hour. The only thing that's remaining for this video session is to put the oil pan in. We've already got the windage tray and the oil pickup done last night, as you guys saw. So what we need to do next is to put in the preformed gasket. Need to figure out the orientation. By the way, if you picked up this pan this year, you get the preformed gasket. But if you did not, if you got it last year, or maybe just one of those guys that kept parts and just set them aside, you'll just get a gasket that's not preformed, and you would have to just kind of guide it through and do the cutting that way, as I mentioned before. This doesn't require any cutting. All you have to do is just take the preformed gasket and put it in the recess, the machined area, and dab some sealant, Fujibo, I forget what the name is. I can grab it to you. I can grab it and show it to you on the points where the case halves meets. So I believe it's here and here. Essentially, right there and right there. So also to note, and for you guys that are actually doing this while the motor is on the car, there's steps to do that. I mean, of course, I'm doing this on a stand, which is much easier. You would have to remove the pitch mount. Actually, before that, you have to remove the intercooler, jack the car up, remove the intercooler to get to the pitch mount, jack the car up, remove the underbelly pan, and remove. I believe you may have to remove the exhaust manifold, heat shields, and definitely the motor mount bolts or nuts, so that you can lift the motor up. And you might have to do that through if you have a hoist, and or maybe get a tranny jack to get the clearance that you need to get the pan off. So there's more detailed instructions on the web, and I believe IAG with their oil pan and KillerB with their oil pan have instructions on their sites on how to do it while the short block or the long block is, or I should just say the motor is in car. So anyway, I just wanted to note that real quick. So I ran into a little bit of a snag here. The preformed gasket may be too long. I mean, as you can see, it all lines up. But then when I get to this section here, it doesn't line up at all. So I may have to cut it at 2 points just so that I can get these peaks or these curves lined up. May have to cut it here and here and just put a sealant where it meets. Now I'm just not gonna continue to videotape, but what I'm gonna do is maybe I have the orientation wrong, which I doubt because it's pretty unique. So I'm just gonna play around it, see if I can maybe get it to work. So after a bit of playing and readjusting, the best I can do is to just come up with one area to cut. And so you had to do this for a non preformed gasket anyway, so it looks like I may have to do that with this. And I'm not sure if it's because of the fact that this gasket was stored in a garage where temperatures saw fluctuations, cold nights and warm afternoons. But anyway, I will end up cutting it, and where it meets, I will put a sealant on it. So just to make sure that you have the gasket, pretty sure I'm focusing okay, if you guys can see that. Just make sure that it's
facing up the flat spot. You don't want it to twist this gasket, which you can easily do. Using this phone camera, my eyesight is really not that great. I can use it to kind of magnify the area and make sure that the gasket is seated properly and flat and not twisted. So it looks good from here. So what I'm going to do next is to just go ahead and cut that portion so that it butts up properly, and then put a sealant on it. So I just noticed that there's a little bit of a casting imperfection. I don't know if you guys can see that. Maybe if I put the gasket, you guys will see that better. See that little piece right there? So hopefully that's not going to be too much of a big deal. Should be fine. This is starting to kind of rise up a little bit, but hopefully that's not it's not going to be that's not going to prove to be an issue. I may put some sealant in there just in case, just to make sure that there's no leakage. Okay, so that's the cut I made, and that's the piece that was in excess. And I did create a notch also on where that that cut was made, so that I know that if it's leaking in this area, that it's because of that that separation, and to apply more sealant. I also, with the area that I talked about with the imperfection, let me see if I can focus. Maybe this is a better location. I really can't focus. You guys can pretty much see it. So what I did was I also marked that location, but this time with paint, yellow paint, because I did try to scuff it, put a line on it, and the fact that this was polished, you couldn't really see much. So I just went ahead and, if you guys can see it. There you go. Put yellow paint on there as a marker. There we go. So that I know that that's the location where the imperfection was on the casting of this aluminum. Maybe these guys will fix their casting and make this a thicker section, kind of like what they did over here. See how much meat is left? Also there, that has more. This seems to be, and that's kind of getting thin, where to a point here is that's already gone and broke off. So anyway, just gonna one last time go and make sure that everything is flat, and I will put this on the short block. So it's later in the evening. I didn't get an opportunity to kind of finish this off during lunch. So yeah, and I had a bunch of things I needed to get done after work too. What I did was I put a dab of the sealant that the shop manual recommends. Actually just got an equivalent. And in addition to that, like I've stated before, it needs to be a dab of, put a little bit of it where the case halves meet. So before that thing sets in, let me go ahead and drop the pan. Oh, and by the way, real quickly, This is the liquid gasket that I'm using. That's recommended by Subaru on their shop manual. Well, actually, they recommend 1207, I believe, but this is an alternative. Okay, so real quickly, the 4 Allen or hex bolts are M6 by 1 by 30, and that's the 4 on the backside. Everything else is going to be M6 by 1 by 20, and they need to be tightened down 5 foot-pounds. Oh, and another thing, this is a 10 and this is a 3/16, and torque this to 33 foot-pounds, and this I believe to 5. That should be it for this video. The pan is on, and hopefully the next video is going to be covering the heads with ARP head studs, and I think at that point, after that will be the oil pump and the water pump. So anyway, hopefully you guys found this video informative. Like I said before, I'm not a mechanic, so follow at your own risk. I am good at just following shop manual, so that should be fairly good enough, right? But anyway, hopefully you guys, like I said, enjoy this video, and I will see you next time. And like always, be kind and stay humble. Not humble to a point where you're getting walked on. You know, also be strong. See you guys. So, do you guys see that O-ring? Well, that's inside the short block. The reason for that is, you know what, let me just pan out a little bit. Maybe you guys can see or realize the perspective where that. So, in essence, it came off the, in haste, it came off the, yeah, probably better to show you where it needs to be. Off of that recess. So it fell inside the short block. So just kind of want to warn you ahead of time that you need to make sure that this is pre-assembled onto the end of the bolt, just so that you guys don't lose that. So I'm gonna have to be doing some fishing. Okay, so I managed to flick that O-ring somewhere else, so it's kind of buried deep in there somewhere. So I've rotated the short block a number of times to no avail. Nothing has come up, so I don't know what to do at this point. Most likely, if I spend another hour on this, I will most likely end up disassembling the short block, which I do not want to do because it's a lot of work. But hey, I'm not gonna assemble a motor with a flying O-ring in there and liable to block something and, well, starvation once again. So anyway, wish me luck. Okay, success. Managed to somehow, through the magic of rotation, was able to get it to a point where
it was visible enough and close enough that I was able to reach it with a pick. Okay, so this is how it's supposed to be, pre-assembled before installing it, to make it easy for yourself and to avoid having to go through what I just went through. So anyway, reinstalling it, and hopefully this time it goes smoothly. So here's another issue that I came across and I would suggest if KillerB is watching, this mount right here, make that enclosed as opposed to just a U. Well, it's a C now, because as you torque down the bolt, it starts to spread. Formerly used to be a U, now it's a C. And also, it's also starting to bend. Let me see if I can get a, that's a probably better perspective as to where that mount is. But let me get a flashlight, so maybe you guys can see better how it's bending back. You guys see that? It's starting to bend. So if you guys lasted this long watching this video, much appreciated. And hopefully that helped you guys out for your install. And hopefully I'll be tackling the heads next. Putting them on, using ARP studs, checking the clearances on the cams, lobes, the buckets, all that good stuff. And again, appreciate your time. Hopefully I'll catch you in the next video. If you guys can, subscribe. That'd be great. Hit the like, and I will see you next time.